We're speaking with composer Dai Fujikura, who is about to have a new work premiered by Seattle Symphony. Dai, it's great to meet you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Very nice to see you.
Take us through your formative years, if you would. You're from Osaka, Japan, born there in 1977, but you're joining us from London, where you've lived for 3 decades. How did that change come about?
Well, I was growing up in 1980s in Japan, and I don't know. I guess I had a pretty wild, rebellious years, so that I had to move far away from Japan to England, maybe. I don't know, but because I moved to UK on my own without my family when I was 15 years old. So, but I already knew I wanted to study classical music. My mother was reading to me all the famous classical composers' biography. Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, and those guys. And I just thought when I was like 10 or 11, I thought, they're Germans.
Yes.
So if I go to Germany, well, then maybe I could be a composer. So that's easy. So just go to Germany. Let's go. Yeah. Because, as a Japanese person, I didn't speak any other language than Japanese when I was a teenager. But English was obviously the closest foreign language to us. So my parents thought, why not just go to England first, learn the language, and then move to wherever you need to go to. So then I came here and on my own, and then I sort of stuck.
So you're a teenager, you're in Europe now, you're studying music, and you're starting to be exposed to the post-World War II European avant-garde. Who were the big influences in that movement on your musical development?
Well, funny thing is that I was into film music when I was a teenager, and I wanted to be a film music composer. When I was early teenagers, so I was listening to lots of orchestral soundtrack at that time. So what's that? That's like a late 80s to early 90s. That's where the films were still using big orchestras. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I was very much drawn to soundtracks of the horror movies.
Uh-huh. Now, were these Japanese horror movies or Hollywood?
No, Hollywood horror movies. Very much American. Big American sound and orchestral sound. And I was listening to all the time. I was definitely influenced by those American soundtrack for the horror movies. I can tell you specific which composer it is, but yeah.
I'm going to guess it's Elliot Goldenthal.
Yes, he's my hero. I do not know him, of course, but I probably have everything by him. It's just incredible.
Now, he scored Alien 3, among others. He's the other half of Julie Taymor, the much admired theater and film director.
I just Alien 3 soundtrack, that was, I must have listened to it several times a day, every day. And when I was in high school, and Interview with the Vampire, and all these soundtracks,
So we're talking lush instrumentation, lush orchestration, a lot of interest in instrumental color and in soundscapes. What about Boulez, Ligeti, even Takemitsu?
Those things came a little later for me. So I went to music college. And then I was really deep into European avant-garde music. Starting with Penderecki, all the Polish composers. And then my interest shifted to music by Boulez, and then many things. When you are college student, you're like a sponge, isn't it? You are just absorbing absolutely everything around you.
I think we can hear many of these influences in the piece we just played, Mina, for 5 soloists and orchestra. And there's a personal connection there too. You named it after your daughter.
That piece is special to me for several reasons. Obviously, that piece was the first piece I have composed since I became father. So I have to say that piece specifically, I was deeply inspired by being in the room when she was being born. All the baby themes, the music about the movement of a baby cheek and movement of the arms and all sorts of things.
It also strikes me as being composed in an international style. I don't think there's much in Mina that I would be able to identify as English or Japanese, for example. But in more recent works, you've been writing for Japanese instruments, haven't you? You had a shamisen concerto premiered at Lincoln Center a couple of years ago.
This is the funny thing is that when I was a young boy, I wanted to be a composer. But obviously, I didn't think that I wanted to be a Japanese composer. I mean, I just wanted to be a composer. And also at the same time, I think this is a big problem in Japan that I studied music since when I was 5, but I did not hear any Japanese instruments or Japanese traditional music until I was at Darmstadt in Germany when I was 20 years old. I mean, I don't think my parents ever listened to Japanese traditional music live. I mean, probably at the sushi restaurant from the speakers at the most. That's how we are detached from Japanese instruments. I mean, I think that's pity. And since about only 10 years ago or so, that younger generation of Japanese traditional instrumentalists, they started to ask me to write music. And lately I have written music for Korean traditional instruments as well as the Chinese traditional instrument. And I would love to write music for instruments which are not Japanese, not European.
You included a hammered dulcimer in Mina.
That's true. Prepared hammered dulcimer.
Prepared hammered dulcimer. Nothing is straightforward with you, is it, Dai?
No, not with that.
So that brings us to Wavering World, which is your new commission for the symphony. How did this piece come about?
I was asked, do you want to write a new piece? And at that time, I was asked to write music, something connected to Sibelius Symphony. So then I was asked which symphony would like to be coupled with. So my absolute favorite symphony of all time is Sibelius Seventh.
And that's his final symphony, almost at the end of his career, and it's a single, roughly 20-minute movement.
Yeah.
But your piece doesn't quote from Sibelius, does it?
No, not at all. So I will not do anything musical, which is because I love it so much.
Nothing musical that will remind us of the Sibelius.
I always think but obviously that masterpiece will be played in the same program. I just think that such a masterpiece, those pieces don't need any addition or any help, obviously. So I just would like to quite stay clear musically. And if I can, modestly, write something new, somehow related to that in a scope of one concert. Yeah.
We're speaking with Dai Fujikura, who is joining us from London via Zoom. He'll be here in the Northwest for the premiere of Wavering World, a new commission from Seattle Symphony. Performances will be Thursday, February 2nd at 7:30 p.m., Friday, February 3rd at noon, and Saturday, February 4th at 8 p.m. All three of those at Benaroya Hall in downtown Seattle. Tickets and information at seattlesymphony.org. And Dai, we'll look forward to this premiere, but you've got other ways of making music besides writing black dots on pieces of paper. We're going to hear a more improvisational kind of music from your new album, The Bow Maker. Can you tell us about that?
I have another life from composing music for classical instruments. I collaborate with Norwegian jazz musicians. I don't know if you call it jazz musicians, but Norwegian improvisers. And swapping sound files, and I play a little bit synthesizer and so on.
So Jan Bong is one of the musicians that you're working with in this track we're about to hear called Implanted Memories. You're working with samples, drum, cello, orchestral samples. I think even a dictaphone is heard in there.
But those are pretty much of Jan's specialty to do so. I needed someone to play with. I just called him. Do you want to do something? And then from that onwards became this album.
And the album is The Bow Maker. It was released by Punkt Edition in September 2022, and you can find it on Bandcamp. Dai Fujikura, we look forward to having you back with Seattle Symphony this week. Good luck with the premiere, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Here is Implanted Memories from the album The Bowmaker, music by Dai Fujikura on Flotation Device.